Hey, hello project manager. Most probably you'll start a new project soon, and you must be wondering what you should do to make it a successful start to a new project or even your new career. Don't worry, I've got you covered. So here are the essential 8 things you must do during the first 14 days. Okay, let's start with tip number 1. People make up the first impression about you in the first few seconds after they meet you, maybe a few minutes at most. And here are the main problems. First, it's hard to make a good impression if you are not prepared. And second, changing the first impression of that person is even harder. That's why the first thing you need to do is to prepare an introduction. And it's just a prepared speech that you will give to your team. No worries, I have a great word-by-word script for you that you can use. I'll leave you a link in the description, but take a look at it after you finish this video. So, if you make a great first impression on your new team right from the start, everything else will be much easier. But there is one thing that I want to mention right away. You need to position yourself as a leader, not as a manager, even though your title is a project manager. That's the main key here. Moving on to tip number 2. During the first few days you'll meet a lot of people. They will introduce themselves in a certain way. Also, if you ask the right questions, they will tell you how they position themselves in the company and on your project. And actually that's how they want you to see them. And it's crucial information because you'll also discover their formal role and responsibilities a bit later. After that, you can compare the formal version with the way a stakeholder perceives themselves. And you see, if there is a gap, it's a powerful tool that you can use to motivate and engage these people. So tip number 2 is to write down all the information about people that you meet for the first time. You can bring a notebook or a phone to capture all these notes. It's better to do it right after the meeting while your feelings and memory are still fresh. And in essence, it's the basics of stakeholder management. If you want to improve your skills in this area, I'll leave you a link to a playlist that explains all the details of this knowledge domain. But in the meantime, we're moving to tip number 3. Unfortunately, I often see one and the same mistake new project managers make. They come to a new company or take over a new project. Next, they dive into the processes, tools, they read requirements and meet with stakeholders. Yes, it's all good things to do, but these new project managers lose sight of the big picture. As the result, often they miss an important milestone or commitment. As a result, it leads to a crisis that you need to resolve, and you start your new project on the wrong foot with your project owners and your boss. And again, it will be very tricky to correct their first impression of your professional skills if you fail to meet their expectation right from the start. That's why tip number 3 is to identify the nearest important milestone. You literally need to ask people about the nearest milestone or any time-sensitive agreements with the project owners. And you need to do it on the very first day. So, for example, you may need to talk with the project manager that you substituted, or find the sales team that onboarded this project, or maybe your manager has some information to share. So you need to ask around and find out what's the nearest milestone. And yes, sometimes it means that you'll have to postpone all other activities and focus on meeting these commitments. It's quite a straightforward activity, but many project managers miss it because they try to start the project right and they fixate on a checklist that they have. Anyway, let's move to tip number 4. And here's another mistake that new project managers make. For example, you come to a new project and from day 1 you tell that everything is wrong and you know better how to do it. You start changing project management tools the team used, you introduce new processes and break old workflows. For sure, you have good intentions, but as a result, you only get resistance from the team and other stakeholders. Remember, no one likes changes. That's why tip number 4 is to avoid any serious changes during the first few weeks. You see, no one knows you. You haven't established yourself as an expert yet, and you haven't gained any support. So there's literally no way you can become a visionary leader for the team. So instead, you should position yourself as a servant leader. First of all, you need to learn the project management approach that people use in the company. Then you can identify opportunities for improvement. And after that, you need to gain support for those exact changes. And actually, that leads us to tip number 5. It's kind of a solution to the previous problem as well. You see, you can't simply lock in a room and observe how the team works. You want to identify real challenges that the team faces in the trenches. And here's the good news. You can actually combine all these activities in one. You can identify problems, build rapport with the team members, and solve several issues at once. So tip number 5 is actually to focus on finding ways to be useful to the team during the first few weeks. Ideally, you want to find the low-hanging fruits for improvement. For example, replace an old laptop that frustrates that engineer, fix an office issue that no one wants to deal with, or request to change coffee beans in the coffee machine because they're awful. So I recommend that you focus on small wins for specific team members. It will help you to form a group of initial supporters of you as a leader. Okay, before we move on to tip number 6, and it's a critical one. If you find this video valuable and if you want to become a great project manager, please hit the like button. As a result, YouTube will suggest to you more videos like this one on project management and leadership. Thank you in advance. Okay, people often ask me, what should I prioritize during the first days on a new project? We talked about one-time or sporadic activities so far, but what should you do most of your working hours for 2 weeks? And the answer is you need to collect information on how to motivate your people. That's why my tip number 6 is to build relationships with all team members. You see, to motivate a person, you need to know what they deem valuable. The best way to do it is by talking to people. So I recommend that you ask the following questions to all team members one by one. Tell me a bit about yourself. What is your role on the project? What do you like and don't like about this project? This approach will help you to learn more about people and what they value in the professional area. Why? Well, because people love to talk about themselves. They crave for someone to listen to them. Then also you need to find time for informal conversations. For example, take them for a coffee or lunch. You got the point. You need to make them talk about themselves from professional and personal side. Now you need to listen carefully to find an opportunity to say something like, nice, me too. For example, you like football, me too. You studied at that university, cool, me too. This simple me too technique helps you to build instant connection with the person. But what's more important, it opens up opportunities for follow-up conversations. First, you should collect information about your team. Then you can do the same for other stakeholders. So you'll have to dedicate enough time for this activity during all 14 days. Moving to tip number 7. Right from the beginning, you need to think about working smarter. It may feel like you need to ease into the new project, but usually it means you'll inherit all unproductive elements of the new environment. So instead, you need to focus on building your routines and workflows. And please know that I'm talking about your own routines, not about project management processes. That's why tip number 7 is to establish daily project management routines. Okay, if you don't know what I mean by daily project management routines, stick with me here. We'll move to the next tip where I'll share a resource that explains this concept in details. The next tip is a bit counterintuitive because it adds even more things on your plate during the first few weeks. But listen up. When you start in a new company with a new project, it's a critical moment to double down on your self-development. But you don't want to learn random stuff on project management or leadership at this point. Instead, you need to refresh your memory and systemize your knowledge. The goal is to form a vision of a new project management approach that you'll use in new environment. However, it's critical that you understand how the old processes and tools will work for the new project. Unfortunately, you can spend tremendous amounts of time systemizing your knowledge and skills. You'll have to read several books or take a PM certification training. Or there is a better alternative. You can watch my project management tutorial. In 45 minutes you'll learn how to structure the whole project management approach, including those daily project management routines that I mentioned before. That's why, no matter how experienced you are, I strongly recommend that you watch this tutorial next. It will make you a better project manager. I'm waiting for you in that video. Click the video now.